When the police lights painted the walls of the old cottage in red and blue, Leah didn't blink. She just stood there, frozen, a porcelain figure carved by grief. The sound of the waves crashing outside was the only thing keeping her tethered to reality. They reminded her of Noah, her younger brother, who used to run barefoot along those same shores, laughing like he owned the ocean. But tonight the sea was silent, and so was Leah. It had been 3 years since that night, the night she let Noah walk home alone after their fight. She had shouted, told him to grow up, told him she was done cleaning up his mess. He was 17, reckless, full of life, and too stubborn to say sorry. That was the last thing she heard before the accident, before the call that shattered everything. Leah tried to bury the guilt beneath layers of routine. Work, silence, sleep, repeat. But every night, the echoes came back. The sound of the door slamming, the rain, Noah's voice fading behind it. Her mother had left the town after his funeral, unable to stay in a house full of ghosts. Leah, however, couldn't leave. She believed she had to stay, as if her presence could somehow make up for what her words had destroyed. One evening, a letter arrived. No return address, just her name, written in Noah's handwriting. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single sentence. "You never listened to the silence." She stared at the words, heart racing. It had to be someone's cruel joke. But the handwriting, it was too real, too precise. She'd recognize his messy loops anywhere. She started searching. Through old boxes, drawers, notebooks, anything that could explain it. She found his old journal buried beneath a pile of forgotten things. Inside, pages filled with thoughts she never knew he had. Fears, dreams, loneliness. One line caught her breath. "Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. Maybe one day Leah will understand." For days, Leah couldn't sleep. She'd walk to the shore every night, listening to the wind. Sometimes she swore she could hear his laughter carried by the waves. The guilt transformed into something else, a need for understanding. For forgiveness, not just from Noah, but from herself. Then came the storm, a fierce, wild one, like the night he died. As lightning struck across the sky, Leah found herself drawn to the cliffs where he'd fallen. The rain soaked her through, but she didn't care. She screamed into the storm, "I'm sorry." Her voice vanished into the wind, but in that moment, she felt it. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was forgiving. It was Noah. Weeks passed. Leah began to write. At first small notes, then long letters addressed to him. Words she'd never said, confessions she'd buried. It became her ritual, and slowly the echoes faded. Not because they were gone, but because she'd finally started listening. One afternoon, while cleaning the attic, Leah found an old cassette player. Inside was a tape labeled "For Leah." Her hands shook as she pressed play. The static cleared and his voice, Noah's voice, filled the room. "Hey sis, if you're hearing this, I guess I never got to say goodbye properly. You always tried to fix things, even when you didn't need to. Don't let my silence haunt you. It was never your fault." She covered her mouth, tears streaming. The message ended with a soft laugh, his laugh, echoing faintly before the tape clicked off. That night, Leah walked to the ocean one last time. She placed the tape on the sand, letting the waves slowly take it away. "Goodbye, Noah," she whispered. "I'm listening now." The moonlight reflected on the water like shards of silver, and for the first time in years, she smiled. The echoes were no longer haunting. They were guiding her home. Years later, Leah became a counselor, helping others deal with loss. Her story remained unspoken, just quiet empathy in her eyes when someone broke down. She had learned that healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about listening to the silence until it began to make sense. And sometimes, on quiet nights, she'd still hear it, faintly, gently. Noah's laughter carried by the waves. Not as a ghost, but as a memory that had finally found peace. The echoes hadn't disappeared. They had simply turned into whispers of love, silent but everlasting.